In problem 5-3, we are working with Firemaster Barbecue, who is inventory that's being sold in over 3 different years with 3 different realizations. First, we have 2014, where we have the amount of the inventory sold equals the amount that's produced. In 2015, we have more produced than sold. In 2016, we have more sold than produced. So the way you think about this is that, if we look at units in ending inventory, we're going to look at the previous production. In this case, we're assuming that there was nothing at the end of 2013. We take the produced minus sold, and we have no units in any inventory in 2014. But then we take the previous units ending inventory plus produced minus sold. We have 3,000 units in any inventory at the end of 15, and then 0 at the end of 16. And the reason is that we sold 3,000 more units in 2016 than we had produced. In part A, we're asked to do full costing, and so what we have to do is find total product cost under full costing, which would take our fixed cost of $30 million and then add $1,000 per unit multiplied by the number of units produced. Be sure that we pick up units produced here, which gives us $60 million in 2014 and 15 and $52 million in 2016. So then when we look at unit product cost under full, for units that were produced in 2014, we take the $60 million divided by, again, the units produced, or $2,000, $60 million divided by 30,000. So in 2014 and 15, the production costs are the same. In 2016, for units that were produced in 2016, the production costs are higher. So under full costing, as we prepare our income statement with sales, cost of goods sold, gross margin, selling and admin expenses, and then net income. For our sales number, we take our 2,500, multiply that by units sold. This gives us 75 million, so 67.5, and then 62.5 for the different units that were being sold. Our cost of goods sold number then falls under the unit product cost multiplied by the units sold for 2014, which then gives us 75 minus 60 is 15 million. Our fixed selling administrative are 350,000, so we have profit of 14.65 million in 2014. In 2015, we would take a similar approach. We would take $2,000 of cost, multiply that by the number of units sold, which gives us 54 million, and then copying these over, we would see a similar result where the profit fell because we sold fewer units. In 2016, we have to be careful. So we sold, as we go into here, we see that we sold 25,000 units. But we only produced 22,000 in 2016, so the unit product cost of the items that of the 22,000 is 2,363. The unit product cost of the beginning inventory is 2,000 times $3, or $2,000 multiplied by 3,000 units. So we're going to have to divvy that out. In other words, we have the units that were produced in 2016 plus the $2,000 of cost multiplied by the units that were produced in 2014. 2015. And then the remainder will work its way through here. So you have to be careful as far as this one's concerned because we're going into some older cost. So then as we underline that, and similarly here, we see that we have this representation of net income across the 3 years. Now, we sold fewer units, so that's why we expected net income to be lower in each of in 2015 and 2016. But notice that difference there in 2016. It's $9 million lower. Now, we're also asked to find the value of ending inventory. So we will do that here. So we just take the unit product cost and multiply by the units in ending inventory. And notice that in 2015, there's a $6 million value in ending inventory, and the other 2 years don't have value in ending inventory. Under variable costing, we take the sales amount as before, and now we have our variable costs, contribution margin, fixed costs, net income, and then we'll also find our value of ending inventory as we did above. Now the sales numbers are going to be the same as they were above here because we have nothing different under variable costing. Then we'll go to the fixed costs. We have our 30 million and our 350,000. So then it's a matter of finding out the variable cost under each of these methods. So notice here that under variable costing, the variable costs per unit are the same for every unit that's being produced. We don't have to go through the calculation we did in line 11. So we will take the $1,000 of production cost and multiply that by the number of units that were sold in each year. So in this case, we can just merely go ahead and do that, and we don't have to pay attention as closely to this, as we did here for that 3rd year's cost of goods sold number. So as we underline here, and when we find this difference, then our contribution margin for each year. And then what we will do is end up calculating the net income number as such. So we take our 45 million, subtract the 30 million, we get 14.65 million. Now notice this in 2014, this is the exact number that we saw under full costing. Well, it ought to be, because that's what we sold everything that we produced. So there should be no difference in reported earnings. But as we copy this formula over, notice what happens. Well, in 2015, net income is lower because we sold less than we produced. But notice it's $3 million less than under full costing. Now that $3 million difference completely reverses itself in 2016 when we sell more than we produced. So what happens here is that so the value of ending inventory gives us a clue on this. So we have $1,000 cost multiplied by the number of units in ending inventory for each of these years. And so notice that we have a $3 million difference. So in part C, we can see that there is a difference in ending inventory $3 million. Well, this is also the difference in reported net income. And this is something that you have to be careful of. And this is, again, for a lot of times when we're dealing with companies that are, when we're receiving information as external users, we could be dealing with companies who might be doing a bit of earnings management. And in other words, continuing production even though demand for their product has fallen. So in 2015, notice this incredible amount of fixed production costs. Well, under variable costing, that's all expensed in the current year. But by producing 3,000 more units than they ended up selling, FireMaster is able to defer 3 million more in inventory, 3 million of the fixed production costs in inventory included in the $6 million value. Of course, this can't persist. The following year, when they do sell these units out of inventory, notice that the net income number includes some of that old cost. So selling more units ends up not being as profitable as counterintuitive as that may seem. So they sold more units than they produced, but their profits fell. And that's what happens when you look at the value of inventory and seeing how under full costing, seeing that is going to be something, that's a train of cost that is going to end up appearing eventually.